Not have the opportunity to hear from all of you, although we would love to, and hopefully at some point we will. But before we start on this agenda item, I'd like to ask by raise of hands, so we can just get a sense, so the board understands why everyone is here. How many of you are here to express opposition or concern about the power lines? Please raise your hand. Okay. And how many of you are here to show support for those power lines? After that, it probably wouldn't be very comfortable.
There you go.
Anyway, I just wanted the board to get a sense of this, since we don't have the opportunity to hear from everyone today. But we are very sensitive to what's happening, and hopefully you'll understand that as a new board, we're trying to wrap our brain around what has already happened, what's possible to happen, and how we can best balance all of these competing needs that we have in our community right now. So, with that, we will start our meeting today with item number 1. We'll have an update on the line, on this transmission line from Jason Norlen.
Okay. So where we're at on it is Harold will do an update on construction out on Highway 40, and then from the Highway 40 segment, what staff calls the 120 line, over to the Point Interconnect substation in MIdway. We've been to Wasatch County Planning Commission, and we've also been to Heber City Board of Adjustments. And so now we're to a point where
can you go to the microphone at the podium? They can't hear all the way in the back right now. Is that mic not working? They can't hear. They can't hear. Is it not on?
Is that better?
Yeah, maybe talk louder and closer to the microphone.
Don't be so shy.
I know.
Okay.
And if you've got an empty chair by you, would you raise your hand?
I just want to see if I
So we've been to the Wasatch County Planning Commission. They made a motion, and what they would like to see is a few items. I'll just read the motion to you, so it's on record. Commissioner Hendricks made a motion to continue item A, the application for conditional use by Rocky Mountain Power and Heber Light and Power, to invite them to address as many of the concerns as they can. Those include intent of the Wasatch County Mission, how they are addressing the CUP items, routing, is the line adequate for both the current and future, rough costs of overhead and burying, and plans for involving other jurisdictions. If there are other entities involved in this area, and addressing the questions of easement and right-of-way to be scheduled for the February meeting. So, because of the lateness of this board meeting and Heber Light and Power staff needing some direction on how to go forth with this motion, we have asked for a continuance and a working session in the February with the Planning Commission, because the engineering study to address the overhead to underground costs, I really felt like I needed to bring to this board and discuss that topic and how we wanted to go about getting that study done and what areas of the line we want to study. So that's kind of where we're at. And now I'll turn the time over to Harold, and he can talk about where the contract crew is on the 120 section.
Thank you. Our contractor that was awarded the bid is progressing at a rapid pace at this point. They are putting the bases of the existing of the new poles in place at this time, while continuing to keep service to all of our customers out there. At this time, I think they have almost all of the bases set, and then they will proceed with setting the tops, and then of course stringing wire and so forth and so on, and racking out the existing line. They're still looking, we're looking mid to end of March is my best judgment at this point for finish. I would bet end of March, and then complete cleanup won't happen probably till April, May, once everything dries a little bit and we can go back to and visit with all the property owners and make sure they're satisfied with our construction and the things that we've done out there. But once again, we've got a great contractor that is working with the owners out there and doing the best we can to meet the needs of them.
Okay. Are you?
Yeah. You want to talk about the engineering study a little bit?
That'd be great, yeah.
Okay. So, just real quickly, this is Heber and Powers. Let me put it up on the big Okay. So this is our current 46 kV configuration. Most people have seen this map many times. And this is the proposed section. So the Highway 40 section is completed, or in the process of being completed, with our 46 kV attached to the structures. So the next thing we really need direction on is, if we're going to study underground, then what is a realistic study of underground? We put in this dotted line on the map to kind of show configurations that, at least to begin the discussion of what we could include in the engineering analysis of what those costs would be to take the line underground. Doing underground throughout the big, around the bypass, might not be the, a realistic type number, because the shorter we go with the underground, the less the cost will be. So, we've proposed a more direct route into the point of interconnect there at 735 West, roughly. And so, what I would really think that staff needs is maybe a setup of the...
Your mic is out.
Mic died, do you want to?
Is that better? Form the facilities committee, and once the facilities committee, once the facility committee of this board is formed, pull in the planning departments of those entities that are affected and come up with a good siting plan for the engineer to study, so that they're not just studying a whole bunch of things. I think they're going to need direction as to exactly what route we would like to study and what sections of the line we would like to study. It's staff's opinion that the section from the end of 650 south and crossing the river through the sewer plant and through the fish hatchery area there, that's really going to drive up costs and inflate the difference number between overhead and underground. So if we were to keep that section overhead, a more realistic number for the communities could come back in. I don't know what those costs would end up being, but there's a good chance you're looking at boring instead of actual trenching through some of those areas. So,
would they be able to break it down based on smaller increments? Like, instead of saying, well, here's a whole number, we could say, well, if you do this section, this section, this section.
Yeah, and that's what we would like to have them do, so that, this body and other bodies can look at it and say, this section may be feasible, but this section really pushes the price way out of balance.
What are the reasons why we wouldn't just take the most direct underground route
if we were looking at underground and do the study there? What are the compelling reasons for that?
Lack of information at this time. That's why I'd like to, get the planning departments involved as far as siting underground. I mean, we involve them in siting the overhead, putting the line on the map so that, we can begin this process. But we haven't done that with an underground siting yet. But when we drew the overhead line on the map, that involved all planning departments and the facilities committee of this board.
All right, are there anything else on the board? I mean, this is so big, I don't know where we even begin. I know there's a lot of questions, even stepping back from the whole idea of burying the lines is, do we really have to have the lines? Do we, maybe just, can you give us a few minutes on how we got here? Like, why are we doing this? Tell us about what we have, what we need, how this is...
Just go into need necessity.
Yeah, just to help us, educate us all on...
Sure. So, Heber Light and Power began working with Rocky Mountain Power back in 2008, 2009 timeframe. We were having some voltage fluctuation issues. I started working with Rocky Mountain Power on that. Some of those issues got solved through some equipment that they installed and operated a little bit differently between peak seasons. You got different peak seasons. You got the winter peak season when there's snow being made and a lot of heat load, and then you got the summer season when there's a lot of air conditioning load. And so, balancing the system and making sure voltages are correct, takes some well-planned and well-timed coordination. So we did the coordination fixes, and that got us through to about 2011. And in 2011, staff at that time studying our issues on the 46 kV side, and also the growth of the community. The growth has been pretty good, pretty solid for about 20 years now. When I started working here, we were peaking at 10 megawatts, and last year we peaked at 40 megawatts. So, in just a 20-year time period, we multiplied by 4, and we're seeing conservative numbers of 2 to 3% growth, but peak, depending on temperatures, has grown as high as 6%. So that demand is really what's the driver on this. So in 2011, with the board's direction, I sent a letter to Rocky Mountain Power asking for a second point of interconnect. At that time, I was told that
maybe explain what that means.
Okay, currently our system is fed off of a 138 kV line that comes up Provo Canyon, and it interconnects to the Heber Light and Power system just there by the MIdway Cemetery at our MIdway point of delivery. And that point of delivery is becoming outgrown, meaning Heber Light and Power's point of delivery is becoming outgrown. That point of delivery has capacity for 49 megawatts, and like I said, our current load on peak is 40 megawatts. So, we fully plan on surpassing the capacity of that interconnect point for Heber Light and Power system in the 2021-2022 timeframe. Real driver for us is getting that second point of delivery, which we have planned behind the Ray Farrell natural gas plant. where that gas plant interconnection point is, and bring a point of interconnect in from the north there and loop the system basically so that we can feed Heber Light and Power from either the north or the south. And it's important to note that Heber Light and Power has all of its own resources, meaning all of its own energy out there, but we are a transmission customer of Rocky Mountain Power's, meaning we pay them to wheel Colorado River Storage Project power to us, and that's how the system works. They are the transmission supplier for the whole state of Utah, so all of the wheeling agreements are with them.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
Could you explain where the line's coming from? It's coming down from Evanston, because I've heard
Yes.
that it's to do with Park City, that we're supplying Park City. Could you clear that up for these folks?
Sure. Yeah, Rocky Mountain Power's line, you know, they've got, you know, a line that is new, that is coming from Evanston into Croydon, around Colville, up in the Browns Canyon to Silver Creek, and then it comes out of Silver Creek substation there at the Park City exit right there. And they have a 138 line that comes down and feeds their Jordanelle substation at the base of the Jordanelle Dam that feeds all of their distribution load in North Wasatch County. So, you know, they have a lot of county customers as well, besides just us as a transmission customer.
So you're not going to build a new substation for Park City on this project?
No, this is a Heber Light and Power point of delivery, and Heber Light and Power requested this, so.
but how does it benefit them? Clearly, they wouldn't pay 80% if they weren't benefiting. So how does it benefit Rocky Mountain Power?
It does loop their system.
So it makes a connection. So
It makes a connection. There is a connection there, and then they have a loop section for their Jordanelle substation and their North Wasatch County customers as well.
And Jason, don't they
Yeah.
have a big substation up there by the MIdway Cemetery that they are looking to enlarge almost 4 times? Isn't that what?
Yeah, they are doing some improvements to that delivery point as well. But some of that is based upon our requests. So,
I mean, there's a lot of questions. We've seen a lot of these concerns that have come through, you know, social media, and everyone's been participating in this discussion. I mean, clearly there are some studies that need to be done, as, you know, was directed by the Planning Commission as well. But we're looking at kind of rehashing some questions here that have been coming up a lot. And it seems to me we can cut to the chase tonight and just say, we've got to get some of these studies in place before we really can act on anything. Otherwise, we're just sort of rehashing the same old questions and concerns. So, I mean, we're looking at a feasibility study, you know, an underground study, a study for maybe the health impacts of a line this powerful. How much of this power really needs to come through our valley? How much can loop around our valley? I mean, there are there's some information we need to get. Otherwise, we're just rehashing. And my question would be, can we, you know, hang on and get those studies before we continue to
clearly, we're to that point in the process, for sure. And that's,
So I'm stating the obvious.
That's the next step.
Evidently. Okay, and I appreciate that you guys are nodding, and you know, you agree with that point. I did check with our attorney who read the contract between Heber Light and Power and Rocky Mountain, and there doesn't seem to be any breach of contract if we hold on this for a little bit and do these studies. So based on his legal advice, we're totally in the clear to do this before we really, I mean, we've got a lot of people who are really interested in what's happening, and we can all hypothesize and play armchair quarterback on this, or we can get some studies.
For sure, yeah. I mean, this is the process. We need the energy. We're a growing community, and the math's good on this as far as what the energy needs are for the community, as well as the reliability concerns. But now we're to the point where we've drawn a line on a map, and and the commissions and the governing boards need to give us direction of what more information they need to make these critical decisions, for sure. And that's just where we're at.
So do we need to authorize funding to do these studies? Like what number?
Yeah, so really, I need a facilities committee from this board to work with.
All right.
So that facilities committee can work with staff and get the studies done that this board wants for this next phase of the project, and also start working with the planning commissions on where we want to study underground lines. I think what's important for this board is we can't study everything. We need to focus down, and this is what makes the most sense for each body that's impacted by this, and let's study what's real and not something that doesn't make sense. So
Yeah, and we know what we have to study for the planning commission.
Yes, and
so we have to do those.
We know what that direction is, yes, and so we need to get that study on board and define exactly what we want that study to produce. And then if the facilities committee wants some other studies done, we need to get them done for this body. So
I think it's important to remember that this body is simply a representation of our community, right? So it's not that we're saying you can't proceed unless we give you approval. We're saying our community has asked for this approval and this understanding and this level of information. And as elected officials, I think it's imperative that we do that.
yeah, this body is the representation for all of our ratepayers.
Right. Right. And one of the things I had talked to Jason Brisby and some of the community, I think it would be helpful if we had some kind of a community advisory board or a group, because it's really hard to hear from all of you. But if we can get a group of people that are representing all of you as the community that can interface with the board, we can't have a public hearing every time we meet. I mean, it's just not possible. What we can do is get some people who are, interested and experienced to kind of help funnel some of those comments to the board. So we hear from you, we're able to communicate back and forth and not have misinformation going either direction, and make sure that the board is hearing what you're saying, and also that we're able to resolve some of the things. Because sometimes I hear different things from different places, but we want to make sure the board has accurate information. The staff, they're willing to do whatever we ask, but we've got to be clear because we only have a limited number of staff and they're trying to keep our power going. So we'll make sure that we can focus in on where the information that is most wanted to be able to help everyone understand the decision that's being made as we move forward. I was going to ask one question. This is kind of stepping back as well. I don't know if the board, probably this previous board had discussed this. What if Rocky Mountain Power had said, no, sorry, no deal, we can't do that? Where would we be? What kind of lines would we be looking at? What would that be like? What if we didn't have a deal with Rocky Mountain Power?
Well, our South 46 kV line, so the red line from the Midway sub into the gas plant is currently at a point where we need to rebuild it. So Heber Power would be rebuilding that. And then if we wanted a second point of interconnection at 46 kV, not going to 138 kV, we would have to probably build a 46 kV line over to Silver Creek.
So we'd have more smaller lines. We wouldn't have the big, tall, 110-foot poles.
We would still have taller poles. 46 kV construction would still be similar. You'd be 3 less wires. You might be 10 feet shorter.
All right, so let's talk about these studies so we can make sure that this can start happening. So we already have the list of things from the planning commission.
Yeah, is this board, just real quickly, is this board comfortable with our company engineer doing the studies?
I think it's, you know, for multiple
Well,
reasons, I think we need to look.
Our company engineer is a third party, meaning we don't have an in-house engineer.
So is this like someone through?
It's a firm, yeah. It's Intermountain Consumer Professional Engineers. So, anyways, if the board doesn't want that, then but I do have an estimate of what the, just a verbal estimate until we define the exact route and the specifications of what we would want in underground. And that was $15,000 for the study. And that's from them. If we want to go with a different engineer, a different firm, then I would have to get a different, I don't know that number would hold.
Is that only to look at underground or to cover all of the issues that were brought up at the plan?
That's just to do the underground.
Has that engineering firm ever been involved in underground lines like this?
Yeah.
They have done this before?
Yeah.
For other municipalities?
Well, they have engineers. They have engineers that work in other places too, like over in Nevada and Colorado.
That have done underground?
That have done underground for various reasons. And Rocky Mountain Power has a 138 kV spec, and Rocky Mountain Power may, turn that over to an independent engineer as well, so that we can get that study. We have never underground at 46 kV, so we would need to also have our company engineer develop a specification of how we would want 46 kV underground.